Why does your own fart smell less disgusting than someone else's? Welcome to today's mini episode. This is one of those questions that feels childish on the surface. But the moment you think about it for a second, it opens a surprisingly interesting window into how the brain works. Because the strange thing is not the smell. The strange thing is your brain, and how it quietly edits reality. Let's start with the basic observation most people recognize, but rarely say out loud. Your own gas rarely feels as offensive as someone else's. Same biological process, same kind of smell, but somehow it hits differently. Why? The short answer is that your brain is constantly filtering the world. And it's especially good at filtering things that belong to you. Your nose detects the smell, but the brain decides how much attention that smell deserves. And when the smell comes from your own body, the brain often labels it as familiar and non-threatening. So the volume gets turned down. Think about it like background noise. If you sit in your own home long enough, you stop noticing how your house smells. A guest walks in and immediately says, what's that smell? But to you, it's invisible. The brain has quietly pushed it into the background. Scientists often describe this as sensory adaptation. Your brain doesn't want to waste energy analyzing the same signal over and over again. If something is always present and doesn't seem dangerous, the brain slowly fades it out. Otherwise, you would constantly notice your clothes smell, your skin, your hair, the room you sit in, the chair you're leaning on. It would be exhausting, so the brain simplifies. It filters. But when the smell comes from someone else, now it's new information. And new information always gets attention. From the brain's perspective, a new smell could mean many things. Something spoiled, something burning, something unfamiliar. So the brain turns the volume up. That alone explains a lot. But there's another interesting layer here. Expectation. When your own body produces gas, your brain already knows something is happening. Your body sends internal signals before anything reaches your nose. So the event isn't a surprise. Your brain is prepared. Someone else's gas, on the other hand, arrives like an unexpected guest, suddenly, unannounced. And surprise tends to amplify reactions. Now here's where the story gets slightly funny and slightly human. Many people secretly do something odd when this happens. They check the smell, not dramatically. Usually just a quick little sniff, almost like a reflex. Why? Because the brain is gathering information. Gas actually carries small chemical clues about digestion and gut activity. So in a strange way, that tiny sniff can function like a quick internal report. What did I eat? How did my stomach handle it? Is everything normal? It's not something people like to talk about. But behavior experiments suggest most people do it at least sometimes. The funny part is that almost no one admits it. Classic human behavior. Everyone does it. No one says it. Now let's add another curious twist. Sound versus smell. You've probably heard the classic joke. The silent one is the dangerous one. And there's actually a small logic behind that. The sound of gas mostly comes from how fast it leaves the body. A strong airflow can create vibration, which creates sound. But smell doesn't depend on sound. Smell depends on what gases are inside. Some gas releases are mostly air and barely smell. Others contain tiny amounts of sulfur-like compounds that create strong odors. Even though those compounds make up only a tiny fraction of the gas, they dominate the smell. That's why sometimes the loud one isn't that bad. And sometimes the silent one is unforgettable. But there's an even bigger idea hiding behind this whole topic. Humans produce gas many times a day, on average somewhere around 10 to 20 times. Sometimes more. Most of those events are small, quiet. and completely unnoticed. Your brain simply decides they are not worth reporting. Life continues. Conversation continues. Nothing stops. And that might be the most interesting part of all. Your brain is constantly deciding what parts of reality you should experience, and what parts it should quietly ignore. Smells, sounds, sensations, tiny events happening inside your own body. Most of them never reach your awareness. They pass through unnoticed. And maybe that raises a strange little question. How much of the world around you is actually happening, but your brain simply edits out? If something as simple as a smell from your own body can be softened, filtered, or ignored, how many other signals are quietly being turned down every day? Your brain might be protecting you from information overload. But it also means something fascinating. Reality, as you experience it, is not just what your senses detect. It's what your brain chooses to keep, and what it chooses to quietly let go.